Hello to my friends in Jackson, Michigan. My name is Kenn Nesbitt. I'm a children's book author and former U.S. Children's Poet Laureate. And I know that a lot of you have been reading and even writing poetry lately. And I imagine that some of you might even be wondering about the possibility of becoming an author yourself. And I'm here to tell you that you can become an author. And it's not really all that hard. So today I'm going to talk to you a little bit about how you can become an author and also how your parents can help in that process. So how does a person become an author? Well, it's actually easier than you might think, because to become an author, all you really have to do is write. Now, I know that might sound a little obvious, but here's the point. Every time you write something, you get better at it, and it gets easier. You see, everything is hard when you first try to do it. You know, the first time you ride a bicycle or a skateboard, you probably fall down a lot, but with a little practice, you get somewhat good at it, and with a lot of practice, you get really good at it. And writing is the same way. The more you do it, the better you get, the easier it becomes. And after a while, you'll be such a good writer that people will say, "Oh man, you wrote that? I can't believe that." But I think you still probably need to know, like, what should you write about, right? Like where do ideas come from? And that's what we're going to be talking about today. So, where do you get ideas? I recommend you get your ideas from things that you do, or things that happen to you, or places you go, or things that you like, or things that you don't like, or stuff you see around you, or even just things out of your imagination. I want to give you an example of a poem that I wrote that was based on something that I did. So, in my first book, The Aliens Have Landed at Our School, I have a poem called Swimming Ool, which is sort of like swimming pool, but it's swimming ool. Now, the reason I wrote this poem is because one day I was out swimming in the middle of a lake, and I realized I hadn't written a poem in quite a while, and I decided to make one up in my head while I was swimming. But I thought, what should I write my poem about? And then I thought, of course, well, swimming, that's what I'm doing. And so I wrote this little poem. Swimming in the swimming pool is where I like to be. Wearing underwater goggles so that I can see. Yesterday, before I swam, I drank a cup of tea. Now our pool is just an ool because I took a pee. And that's how you can get an idea for a poem or a story just simply based on something that you do. Now, I want to tell you a little bit about how I actually became an author, and then I have some more poems that I want to share with you to show you how to get ideas. Because you see, once upon a time, I was just a little kid. So here's a picture of me when I was about 2 years old. I'm probably lying there in my diaper. That other kid sitting up there, that is my older brother. His name is Ross. And then the man in the middle there, that is our father. And of course, I'm sure you can see what we are doing here, right? We are reading books, and we read lots and lots and lots of books when I was a kid. But the ones that I remember the most were the funny rhyming books. And, I have to say, I credit my father reading books with me and my brothers when we were growing up to me becoming a writer and a successful author. Now, something else, the first book that I ever remember my parents reading to me was Mother Goose, right? Weird, short, funny, rhyming poems. And then when I got a little older, where I was reading myself, I started reading books by Dr. Seuss, like The Cat in the Hat and Green Eggs and Ham. And my favorite Dr. Seuss book of all time is one that you probably never even heard of. It was called I Had Trouble in Getting to Salisaloo. If you ever come across a copy of that book, I highly recommend you read it. It's really weird. And something else that we used to do besides just read books was we used to go on a lot of road trips in our family car. So here's another picture. That's me right down there at the bottom. That's my older brother Ross standing right next to me. Behind him is my grandma and my little brother Danny and my mom, and then there's my dad, and there's the car. Now, the reason I'm showing you a picture of our car is because we went so many places in this car that it was often my mom and my dad in the front seat and me and my two brothers in the back seat with nothing to do. And so if you're stuck in the back seat for an hour between your two brothers with nothing to do, pretty soon you find yourself fighting. And we just thought it was all great fun, but parents get a little cranky when you're fighting in the back seat. And so the way that they would keep us from fighting is they would distract us by telling stories or singing songs or reciting poems. My father had memorized a lot of poems, and I loved listening to them. So parents, if you're listening, read to your kids. It does make a difference. Now, as I got even a little older, so here's a picture of me and my brothers. That's my older brother Ross in the dark blue shirt, my little brother Danny in the purple shirt, our friend Jimmy in the red sweater, our dog Rhodes, and then there's me. Now, I'm sure you can tell just by looking at this picture that my brothers and our friends look kind of normal, right? Yeah, and I'm the one that's being a goofball. I'm the one that's like posing for the camera, like I'm making plans to take over the world. And so this is the thing. When I was a kid, I not only loved reading, I not only loved rhyming funny poems, but I loved jokes and I loved making people laugh. And when I grew up, I realized I could put these two things together, poems and making people laugh. And so now I do this for a living, is I just make up funny poems and I share them with kids. But the ideas just come from all the places I've already mentioned. I shared one that was based on something I did. Well, you can also create poems based on things that happen to you. For example, when I was in the 6th grade, my school went on a field trip to the snow, and all the kids brought their sleds, including me, except I was the only kid that crashed into a tree. And so one day I decided to write a poem about that experience, although I wanted to make it a little bit funny and I wanted to make it about someone who wasn't me. And so this poem is from my book, When the Teacher Isn't Looking, and it is called Snow Day. Here goes. Snow day, Fred said. All play. Let's sled. No school, just snow. Way cool. Let's go. Fred ran in shed, had plan, got sled. Go slow, Mom said. I know, said Fred. Uphill went Fred, downhill Fred sped. Sled streaked on past, Mom shrieked, too fast. Snow blew, can't see. Fred flew, hit tree. Sled bent, Fred's head got dent. Poor Fred, he cried. Now plays inside snow days. Okay, so there's a couple of places where you can get ideas for poems or stories that you are writing. Another one is things that you see or hear around you. You know, a lot of authors will tell you, just pay attention to the things that happen to you or the things that you see or hear, because those things may become ideas for your stories or your poems. For example, one day I was at a school and I was having lunch in the lunchroom, and I overheard a conversation between a couple of teachers, and I just thought, oh, that would be a good idea for a poem. And so this poem from my book, Revenge of the Lunch Ladies, is called I Have Noodles in My Nostrils. Here goes. I have noodles in my nostrils. I have noodles on my nose. There are noodles on my cheeks and chin and dripping down my clothes. I've got more upon my forehead. Some are sticking to my neck. It's completely disconcerting. I'm a noodle-covered wreck. I can see them on my kneecaps, and I know they're in my shoes. When I stand, they're somewhat squishy, and I feel them start to ooze. There are several in my pockets. There's a handful in my hair, and I'm pretty sure that some are even in my underwear. So, try not to do what I did. I'm a total nincompoop. And I fell asleep at lunch while eating chicken noodle soup. And see, all that was I overheard a conversation where one teacher was telling another teacher a story about a student who fell asleep while they were eating lunch and spilled their noodle soup all over their clothes. And I just thought, oh, a perfect idea for a poem. You can also get ideas by writing about things that you like. Just ask yourself, like, what is my favorite thing? Because it doesn't matter if your favorite thing is pizza or soccer or your dog or a video game, anything. So I wrote a poem one day about something that was my kid's favorite thing, and it is a little poem from my book, The Biggest Burp Ever, called I Didn't Go Camping. Here it is. I didn't go camping. I didn't go hiking. I didn't go fishing. I didn't go biking. I didn't go play on the slides at the park. I didn't watch shooting stars way after dark. I didn't play baseball or soccer outside. I didn't go on an amusement park ride. I didn't throw frisbees. I didn't fly kites or have any travels or see any sights. I didn't watch movies with blockbuster crowds or lay on the front lawn and look at the clouds. I didn't go swimming at pools or beaches or visit an orchard to pick a few peaches. I didn't become a guitarist or a drummer. But boy, I played plenty of Minecraft this summer. And the reason I wrote this poem about a favorite thing, it wasn't my favorite thing, but it was my kids' favorite thing, was that they spent an entire summer just playing Minecraft and they didn't do hardly anything else. Yeah. Now, you can also write poems about things you don't like, right? Just ask yourself, well, what do I really, really, really not like? Because it doesn't matter what it is. You might not like homework, or you might not like Brussels sprouts. Just take that and write a poem or a story about it. So here's one. One of the things was that as I was writing my book, The Tidy Whitey Spider, I was writing new poems every single day. Every single day. And one day I was so sick of writing poems that I didn't want to do it. But I had to. And so I wrote a poem called I Have to Write a Poem. And you can do this too. It's a really easy way to write a poem, is just start it with, I can't write a poem. I don't like writing poems. I don't want to write a poem. I have to write a poem. Something like that. So here's how mine turned out. I have to write a poem, but I really don't know how. So maybe I'll just make a rhyme with something dumb like cow. Okay, I'll write about a cow, but that's so commonplace. I think I'll have to make her be a cow from outer space. My cow will need a helmet and a spacesuit and a ship. Of course, she'll keep a blaster in the holster on her hip. She'll hurtle through the galaxy on meteoric flights to battle monkey aliens in huge karate fights. She'll duel with laser sabers while avoiding lava spray to vanquish evil emperors and always save the day. I hope the teacher likes my tale. Amazing Astro Cow. Yes, that's the poem I will write as soon as I learn how. So, these are places where you can get ideas. I have one last one for you, and that is just make up something, right? Just daydream and write about something entirely from your imagination. And so this last poem I have for you today is from my book, My Hippo Has the Hiccups. Now, this was based on something real, but ultimately it was just a poem out of my imagination, and it is called My Puppy Punched Me in the Eye. Here goes. My puppy punched me in the eye. My rabbit whacked my ear. My ferret gave a frightful cry and roundhouse kicked my rear. My lizard flipped me upside down. My kitten kicked my head. My hamster slammed me to the ground and left me nearly dead. So, my advice? Avoid regrets, no matter what you do. Don't ever let your family pets take lessons in Kung Fu. Now, I said this poem was based on something real. Well, it was based on my actual dog. Here's a picture of my dog. His name is Jesse, and yeah, I know, he's like so ugly that he's cute. But his favorite thing to do is to jump on people. Anybody that comes to our house, and he is right there barking and jumping, and I don't know if he thinks he's protecting the house or if he just wants to play. But one day I saw him jumping on somebody and I thought, ooh, wouldn't it be funny if he had like superpowers? Or maybe if he took karate lessons or something like that, then he could totally defeat them, right? Well, I ended up with the Kung Fu lessons as the poem. So that was just something, boom, out of my imagination. So those are ways that you can get ideas for your own writing, and that is how you ultimately can become an author, is just by writing and writing and writing and writing a lot and getting much, much better at it. But your parents can help too. The most important thing that parents can do to help their kids to become writers is read to your kids, read with your kids, set aside a time, maybe bedtime, to read with your kids. Parents, you might not know this, but you can read books to your kids that are at about 3 grade levels higher than what they can read themselves. So if your child is in, say, kindergarten, you can read 3rd grade level books to them and they will understand them. And they may come across words that they don't recognize, but then you can explain those, and that is a great way to grow vocabulary. I also recommend you go to the library together and pick out books that you can read together, something that both of you will enjoy. And to that end, I have a recommendation. And there's a number I want you to remember, and that number is 811. Now, you know that if you have an emergency, like there's a fire in the house or there's a car accident, you pick up the phone and you dial 911. 911 is the emergency number. Well, there's a number I call the poetry emergency number, and that number is 811. 811 is the Dewey Decimal number for poetry in the library, so just think poetry emergency, 811. Go to the library, find where all the books have numbers on them, find where the number is 811, and that is where you will find books of poems such as the ones that I write. And oops, I clicked the wrong button. You can also ask your kids to write you a poem. If they say, Mom, what do you want for your birthday? Tell them you want them to write you a poem. Dad, what do you want for Father's Day? I'd like you to write me a story. There you go. And also, lastly, I do recommend you visit my website, poetryforkids.com, because not only do I keep hundreds and hundreds of fun poems that kids can read or that kids and parents can read together, but I also have dozens of tips and lessons for different ways that you can create your own poems. So that is how you can become an author, how your parents can help. Thank you so much for letting me visit with you this year, and I hope to see you again another time. Take care.